name is Douglas Grummons. Thank you for joining me today. Today's going to be a very special day for me because I think I'm going to start the second book I wrote called Songs of the Buddhas. So let me start by reading the back page, the rear cover of the book. This was inspired by a friend of mine named Alex. Alex was a friend of mine that used to come up to drum circle before he graduated from college. But anyway, I say, one night at Jimmy's Pier, we were gathered for our Friday night drum circle. I saw one of my friends ordering a drink from the bar, so I walked up and I said, "Hello." We both ordered a beer, and my friend Alex asked me, "What's the book about?" And as I considered his question, I looked all around the restaurant and responded, "All of this." With a quizzical look on Alex's face, I said, "Truth." Still confused, Alex looked at me and said, "You know the truth?" I just smiled at Alex and we sat down to enjoy our beers. I then leaned over and said, "They say that the truth is too vast to be known, but what if it really is not? What if the mystics who have told us this had to say this so humanity could reach the level it has reached?" The Hopi Indians have a prophecy that a man would come, and if humanity decided to trust him, the world would be saved from the fourth destruction. I continued. I finally told him, "I do not believe that I am that man, but I have the potential to be, and so do you. I say this because no man will be able to save this world. It will take 1,000 men with the potential, maybe 1,000,000, who knows? And that's what this book is about, helping each of you reach your potential and save this world." And that's what I put on the back cover of the book. I really liked it. It was an actual conversation that I had with Alex. So let's just dive right into the book. The book is called Songs of the Buddhas. It's commentaries on 4 of the most beautiful songs written, by my opinion, which is not much. But anyway, the preface starts off by saying, "When I wrote my first book, 10,000 Waves, my goal was to dare people to live immensely beautiful lives. The book was short considering it covered over 25 years of my life. I kept it short for several reasons. First of all, I'm a carpenter's son, and a carpenter's approach to matters is direct and to the point, just as he would drive a nail through a 2x4 with 3 hits. It takes skill and really good aim. So that was my main focus, to deliver my messages skillfully without beating around the bush. And as I reflected on what I had written, I felt the journey had only just begun. I began reading scripture or spiritual works many years ago, about the same time I started meditating. And one of the first books I read was called Surfing the Himalayas, and shortly afterwards, Snowboarding to Nirvana by Frederick Lenz. I love a good mystery, especially one that involves spirituality and snowboarding. Those books gave me insights on meditations that improved my meditation practices. The story was fictitious, taking place in the Himalayas, where Frederick Lenz meets Buddhist monks who guide him on his journey towards enlightenment. And in the second book, Snowboarding to Nirvana, he finally becomes enlightened, as he claimed. I had no clue what enlightenment was, but something did not feel right inside of me. But with that thought in my mind, I went into meditation one evening, and I started coming out of my meditation, and right out of the blue, the name Maxwell popped into my head. Not knowing anything about Lenz's history, I put the thought into the back of my head, and about a month later, I visited the Edgar Cayce Center Library in Virginia Beach and looked up the name Maxwell, and I found a book written by Frederick Lenz and co-written by a fellow named Maxwell. Now, how could existence be telling me this, and why? According to Mr. Lenz, enlightenment was the ability to light up a room with a glow, and I found this theory interesting, but still something did not ring true. It sounds mystical, but is that all enlightenment is? If this is true, then any magician could be called enlightened. Just a little luminescent dust that can only be seen when the lights are turned off is needed. So what is enlightenment? To me, it is coming home, the death of the seed, and the beginning of life as a real human being. The Indians call it twice born, Duiji. Christians call it being born again. Except you cannot be born again if you do not die first. And I'm not talking about a physical death. The death I'm talking about is the death of the ego, the surrender of the self. Spiritual seekers have said it is a gift, and that has a ring of truth to it. Still, it is more than a gift, because it is only given to those who have earned it. It is said that there is no cause and effect for enlightenment to occur, yet without meditation it will never happen. Enlightenment is a paradox, and it will always be a mystery, yet it is still your destiny. There is no roadmap, no written directions, no scripture, and there is no person on this planet that can give this gift to you. So what can be done? You can be made thirsty for it. And my attempt to make you thirsty is through understanding. I am saying things in this book I have never heard from another person. I just meditate and observe. I observe nature, and I have still learned many lessons from doing so. Still, what I am proposing in this book is my truth. In order for it to be understood and made your truth, you will have to approach it as a scientist of the spiritual world. And please do not simply accept what I say is true. Go into every word and meditate deeply, because only then will it become your truth. When I began writing this book, I was first inspired by listening to River of Deceit by Layne Staley on the radio, and I wrote down how the song made me feel. And I chose the song to write about. The river theme just continued to spring out of me. And then I had to choose one more song to write about. I chose one of the most beautiful songs because it was not only was it perfect for this situation, but I also wanted to give my future daughter a life she could live without discrimination. This second book of mine goes deep into the makings of the human psyche and gives clues on how we can learn from our past mistakes. I chose these 4 artists not because of they have all passed away, but because they left us with their legacies. I make no claims that what you're about to read are actually what the artist meant to imply. They are my interpretations brought to me through my awareness. So please enjoy. Thank you. That was the preface. Before I start chapter 1, let me just start off by saying this, that Layne Staley was the lead singer of Alice in Chains, a band out of the Northwest, Washington State, I believe, and he had an amazing deep voice that could haunt you for eternity, and he was very successful in Alice in Chains, and he wrote this song down with a group called Mad Season. But anyway, the name of the song is River of Deceit, and is written by Layne Staley. And instead of me trying to, say all the words of the song repetitively, because I can't sing for one, I encourage all of you to, pull up this song after we go over the book and listen to these songs and let the truth of the artist's meaning seep deep into your souls. Anyway, chapter 1. I'm not sure why I started. I just put this little paragraph in here and then I jumped off of it really fast. I'm sure I'd come back and follow it up, but if I don't, I'm sure I will now. I start off by reading something that Osho shared with me, and he said that the word sin in ancient times held a different meaning than the way it used today. In ancient Arabic, the word sin meant missing the target, like when an arrow is shot towards a bullseye and misses the target. I recently met a fellow meditator on the beach down in Galveston, and he had a picture of his guru in his wallet. And in the picture was a super skinny man sitting in the lotus posture. I was told he was very old, but looks like he was in his 30s. The meditator proceeded to tell me that if you learn to breathe a certain way and follow a certain strict diet, then you could look or be like this fellow in this picture. And I looked at the meditator and I said to him, or you could just surf. I told him surfing is the fountain of youth. Surfers learn how to breathe just like his guru, and they eat foods that help him to surf better. A surfer is a natural meditator. He needs no instructions on how to still his mind or how to be centered. These things come naturally, and a surfer also has a vibrancy, a glow about him in which no guru can compare to. His guru looked ill and skinny. And so skinny, he looked like a skeleton with skin. And I said, is this anyone to be adorned? And later on that evening, we had dinner together. And I shared another beautiful truth about being close to a master and yet keeping some distance so that one can figure out some of life's mysteries with one's own light. I use the example of his guru being a large tree, and his tree branches could be very wide and cover lots of ground. And if you've ever gone to the forest, you would notice if a sprouting tree is too close to the large tree, it only has a very small chance of growing into a large tree itself. Also, the roots of the large tree or redwood tree, the ones I'm specifically referring to, they are firmly planted in the soil. So there will be. So where will the young tree's roots go? The best place to plant a budding tree is close enough to the large tree to get some shelter, yet far enough away so it will get some of its own sunlight and rain. And this is the case with these gurus. They want you to keep. They want to keep you close so that you can grow, but at some point you have to grow on your own. When one of Buddha's disciples became enlightened, he sent him away because he knew that he had to grow, and if they stayed, it would eventually hinder their growth. If you have ever stood under a tree, under a 300-foot redwood tree, you would be mesmerized. The same happens to followers of gurus. They become mesmerized by their godliness, and they become too close. Every parent knows the time when they must tell their child it's time to make it on their own. Some gurus have thousands of followers, so how can they find the time to first nurture them and then send them on their way when the time comes? And I have known followers from several gurus. Some of them have been followers for over 30 years. If you follow someone, a guru, a priest, a monk, or whomever it may be, just be aware of this pitfall. You will not grow as you should if you are too close, and and then you will never know the grandeur of the beautiful sky until you grow on your own. Do not let your mind take this the wrong way, though, and go on to the other extreme. A master is needed just as a parent is needed to raise a child. The world should have many redwood forests, and every continent should have hundreds, if not thousands, of large trees. It should not be that only once or twice every 2,000 years a Buddha or a Christ graces the earth. And this is the meaning of Jesus' message, that one mustard seed can make the whole world green. And if you have been following a spiritual leader or guru for more than 30 years, and you still do not know or have not experienced the true meaning of godliness or the oneness of enlightenment, then maybe the master is not right for you. Light is abundant, so give yourself a little respect. Step away from the trunk of the tree. Rest yourself at the tips of the branches, and you will see the light has always been there. God is abundant. He is like water. Just create a space and he will enter. Just as if you dig a hole in the ground, water will find a way to fill the hole. So do not spend your whole life missing the target. And there I go, coming back to what I was talking about, sin. But anyway, back to the text. And the meditator missed what I was trying to convey. And being a surfer, I know that there is if there's good surf out that day, and I decide to sit home and be lazy instead of riding those waves, then I miss an opportunity to be with nature. I miss an opportunity to have the sunshine on my face. I miss all the exercise, not to mention how much stoke I would have gained from riding all those gifts from God, those beautiful waves. Existence is guiding us from all directions, but we don't have eyes to see the subtle clues. The clues come in forms of art, music, and many other ways. Musicians and artists are tapping into God when they are being creative. And if you have had the opportunity to see Layne Staley while he was alive, you got to see one of the most beautiful, unique singers of our time. His voice alone can ground you, and his lyrics can haunt you. And if you did not see him, then you missed. If you did not understand the lyrics of this song, then you missed again. We go on living our lives continually missing the target, and the target is always God. And Layne Staley starts his song off by saying, "My pain is self-chosen, so at least the prophet says." And I commentate, the story of Adam and Eve gives us a clue to why we are here, existing, going through life, and feeling disconnected from our Creator. In the East, they have a similar story, and this story is of a fish that listened to a turtle talking about what the ocean was. He was told the ocean was all around him, and he was told the ocean gives him his life and gives life to all the fish. Still, this fish had no idea of what the ocean was. He thought the turtle was out of his mind. Then one day, the little fish, still thinking about what the turtle was saying, came across a yummy looking worm. The little fish could not resist this worm and swallowed him up. The next thing he knew, he was being pulled upward and out of the water and into the air and out of the ocean, and he could not breathe. He was suffering, and he just wanted to be put back in the water. Luckily, was just a little fish, and he was thrown back. From that moment on, he knew what the ocean was. The story of Adam and Eve was not to be taken literally. It was given to explain why we have this feeling that we do not know our Creator. The story says Adam and Eve ate from the tree of knowledge, and this is the temptation that Satan tempted them with. It is fictional, but now man has knowledge and no knowing. If you want to know, give Satan back his apple. Humble yourself and admit that you know nothing. They say ignorance is bliss, and then it comes to divine presence. You must come not with knowledge, but with the courage to give up all knowledge. It is knowledge that is keeping you away. It is knowledge that is sustaining your pain. Layne must have been realizing the pain with which the prophet was describing. If we really believe it is self-chosen, then it is up to ourselves to release us from this pain. It could have been that we were just like this story of the fish and the ocean. We were surrounded by God, and then asked, "What is God?" Then when you are surrounded by light all the time, you would eventually have to ask, "What is light?" If light is all you have ever seen and all you've ever known, you would have no concept of what light is. If you have not known darkness in comparison, you would not recognize the concept of light. Self-chosen or not, it is the way we are. Down the ages, the prophets have said it is self-chosen, so there could be some truth to what they say. The feeling of pain Layne Staley is talking about to me is this feeling of separation between God and us. Why else would he mention a prophet? Sure, there are many forms of pain, and if you bring a ray of light into your past, then you might also see that they are self-chosen. I chose to have a roof over my head and food in the refrigerator. I choose to have a new surfboard almost every year. And these are choices I have made in life. And these choices induce a certain pain because I have to make enough money to pay for these things. This is also a self-chosen pain, grinding out 40 plus hours a week to pay for all these comforts. And these are not the pains Layne Staley so poetically put in his song. Layne continues singing by saying, I could either burn or cut off my pride and buy some time. And there are two ways to control a person: to make them greedy or induce fear into them. Politicians and priests in the past have always used these tools to control man. They have tried to induce fear by telling them they would burn in hell for their sins. They have said things like, I believe in what I say, or you'll be cast down into hell to burn for eternity. So Layne sings on and says, I could either burn, then I commentate shortly. The only hell that exists is the one we self-create here on earth. Life without love is the hell that we create. No need to be cast into an eternal pit of fire. Hell is life without love as your center. If love is not filling your center, you feel empty. And when you feel empty, you will feel fear. Several meditators have come to me and said that they meditated and reached their center only to find it was hollow. And it can be a very scary thing to realize that at your center we are hollow. The truth is that we are hollow, and this gives God the room to fill your center with love. Even human love can fill your center for a short period, and that's why we feel more complete when we are in love. Even human love can help, but this is only temporary. This is why when a couple falls out of love, they again feel lost and empty. Recently, I almost broke off my relationship with a woman that I was madly in love with. I felt she did something that was very disrespectful to me, and I did not act childish about it. I just told her how much I loved her and thanked her for everything she has done for me. I then left her place and drove home, and it was a long drive home to my house. Along the way, I became aware that what she did was out of innocence, and even though it was hurtful to me, I was not ready to lose her. So Layne Staley sings, or cut off my pride and buy some time. And I comment, the next morning I drove back to her house. I cut off my pride so we could have some more time together. I knew she loved me, and I loved her more than I care about my pride. Love in your center, God's love in your center, is the only permanent fulfillment. All other types of love only give you a glimpse at where you should aim your arrow. When I look at the word pride in this song, I also believe Layne Staley could be referring to his ego. Later on in the song, he left some more clues that led me to believe this. So Layne sings, "A head full of lies is the weight tied to my waist." And then I comment, throughout history, a handful of enlightened masters have existed on our planet. While they were living, people like Jesus and Buddha were dangerous to those in power. You won't hear or read about priests coming to listen to such enlightened people. Jesus preached on the hills and open fields by the rivers and by the sea. He did not have a church or a temple in which to spread his message of love. So to the priest, this man was dangerous. More and more people came to listen to this man. Soon his message of love was spreading all over the land, and thousands came to listen to Jesus. People were turning their backs on the priests in the temples, and the priests would talk about the laws of Moses and their forefather Abraham, while all the time a living incarnation of God was among them, sharing messages of love. It was not that Moses and Abraham were not godly. They were, but they were in the past. Jesus was the present, standing right before them, and they could not see his presence. While Jesus and other enlightened souls were living, there were priests that could not come and be close to them like real searchers. It was only after they left their bodies could these cowards say that they were real searchers. Jesus was no longer around to defend himself, so his message could be distorted. This did not just happen to Jesus. It has happened to all the sages in every religion, even to this day. Changing one small word can change the whole meaning of any enlightened master's teachings. And one day a friend showed me an older Bible, and in the scriptures where Jesus supposedly said, "I am the Son of God," there was a footnote stating that the translation could also mean that he said, "I am a Son of God." Big difference between a and the. The word "the" changed, and you can start a whole religion with it. This was not just Jesus' dilemma, though. This has always happened throughout history. Words were changed, truths were distorted, and this was the primary reason people like Jesus and many Zen or Sufi masters spoke in parables. Despite all the changes made throughout time, these books have some of the most beautiful truths ever spoken. People are attracted to a Buddha and his words, and then Buddha dies, and clever people come and take advantage of such people. Change a simple word and the message changes. I have heard the Hindu language has several different words for the word love, and if someone chooses the wrong word for the word love, then the whole meaning could be lost. A person might say, "I love my uncle," and if the wrong word for love was used, then the person would be looked at very strangely. And it does not matter how good the intentions are. The meaning of the master was trying to convey could be lost. I have heard from an old roommate of mine who was a devout Christian that the King James Version of the Bible was translated by Christian monks around the 1600s. So he told me that they took great care in translating the text. But these monks were not enlightened men. Jesus spoke Aramaic, and his words were written down long after his death. Then the first Bibles written were written in Greek and eventually translated to English. So how will we be able to know the real meanings Jesus intended us to know? I use an example from Christianity, but this is the dilemma of every religion faces. These are the lies Layne Staley referred to in his song. He felt that his spirit could not fly with the weight of lies tied to his waist. So I'm going to stop the reading from the book right there. Chapter 1's still got a little bit more into it, but I wanted to also mention that I'm reading this new book that I just picked up from Osho called The Wild Geese in the Water. And on page 19, Osho shares with us, which is something in line with what Layne Staley and I are both trying to portray, and that is that The first thing to be remembered is that you can function in the spirit of Jesus Christ only if you are Jesus Christ, otherwise not. And remember also that existence never repeats itself. 2,000 years have passed and there has not been another Jesus Christ, and there's not going to be any in the future. It is so clear. 25 centuries have passed since Gautama the Buddha, and no other Buddha has happened. 5,000 years have passed since Krishna, and no other Krishna has happened either. Zarathustra, Lao Tzu, Moses, all the awakened ones have remained unrepeated. And what to say about the awakened ones? Even the unawakened ones are unique. There is not anybody like you anywhere in the world, and there has never been before, and there will never be again. You are the only one. But religions have not accepted this simple fact. Existence is not repetitive, and it is good that it is not repetitive. Just think of a world where millions of Gautama Buddhas are all sitting under the Bodhi trees. It will be so boring. Or millions of Jesus Christs carrying their crosses, all roaming around the world. They will not even find somebody to crucify them because others will be carrying their crosses themselves. And who has time to crucify anybody? It will be ugly and it will be boring. One day Jesus has a beauty. Many Jesuses will look like produced in a factory or on assembly line, like Ford motor cars. Every minute a car comes out. Every minute a Jesus comes out, well equipped with the cross, etc., etc., with those 12 apostles following him, and they go on coming to the factory around the clock. What are you going to do with so many Jesus Christs? What are you going to do with so many Mahaviras or so many Buddhas? No, it is not needed. Each individual is unique, and uniqueness is a gift from existence. But why these religions have been teaching to live in the spirit of Jesus Christ or in the spirit of Gautama Buddha? Why don't you have your own spirit? Then drink alcohol. Get some spirit. Make some spirit of your own. Why Jesus Christ? What wrong this poor fellow has done to you? Can't you stop crucifying him? Will you ever be able to forgive him? The whole idea is of imitation. Imitate. You have no right to be yourself. You have to imitate. You can be accepted only if you are somebody else, a Buddha, a Moses, a Muhammad, a Mahavira, a Jesus, a Kabir, a Nanak, but not yourself. And can't you see a simple fact that Jesus was not Moses? He should have repeated, and then he would have saved his life. He would not have been crucified by the Jews if he had just lived the spirit of Moses. But he tried to create his own spirit. He tried to be an individual, and that was his crime. If he had simply repeated he would have been respected, glorified as a great rabbi. But he became a rebel. And everybody has to become a rebel, not an imitator. So that's what Osho had to say in his book called The Wild Geese and the Water. And we can get into more of that later. I'll probably be sharing more of that book with you as we move on through all the discourses. I seem to go through about a book a month, I want to say. It takes me about a month to read one of the books. And I don't bite off any large chunks. Like I don't sit down and try to read a whole book at once. In fact, I just digest a little bit at a time. I sometimes wake up in the morning and read a page before I go to work. And then at lunchtime, I'll sit down and read a page or two. And, and then sometimes if I get off work early, I'll go to Starbucks or find a nice comfortable chair somewhere and I'll read another couple pages. But I never, try to bite off huge chunks. It helps me just to do it in smaller doses because a lot of times it gives me time to reflect and to meditate over the words that I've read and that gives me time to digest it and absorb it. And it's like having fuel for the day. You wake up in the morning and if you read a page or two, it just puts you in the right mindset to start your day. And I also enjoy listening to these podcasts, even the ones I put out. I like listening to a lot of podcasts, but the ones I put out put myself into a good state of mind to start off my day. But anyway, we'll pick up with chapter 1 again and try to finish that real soon. For now, I have to say goodbye and thank you for listening. And I appreciate your time. And I hope you stay with me, and we'll go through this book, Songs of the Buddhas, together. And one last note before we go and depart. I wanted to share with you that I am putting together the 1877 number. I was going to try to do a 1-800 number, but the number was taken up, so I couldn't do it. I decided to go with 1-877-399-0272. Again, that's 1-877-399-0272. And this is a told call, but it would give us a chance to, or give me a chance to reach out to you and for you to talk to me and share some insight together. I also can do the Osho Zen Tarot cards with you over the phone if you'd like. But anyway, thanks for joining me again. I look forward to hearing from you. Check out all the other videos now. I think I have enough videos to make my own YouTube channel. Yeah, I don't know what's involved in it, but it looks like I have enough to do that with. But anyway, thank you for joining me. Y'all take care of yourselves now. Bye.